Here's how to actually get jacked using science and our best current knowledge of hypertrophy. So to start, what is hypertrophy? Hypertrophy, by definition, is the thickening or enlarging of organs or parts. But what does that actually mean? For our purposes, all you need to know is when I say hypertrophy, I'm referring to the growth of muscle fibers. So first things first, if you want the best muscle growth possible, I 100% recommend getting a gym membership. There's no way around it, really. A home gym will always be more expensive. Just save yourself the time and get a gym membership. A trick with public gyms to get your best value is to go to the bigger, more like commercial gyms, because these guys have already invested the money in these machines. They don't have to charge as much per membership. So let's get into our first topic, intensity. A lot of people aren't going to like this, but if you want optimal muscle growth, you have to train very hard. Every set should be at least within 2 reps of failure. Not to failure, but just before it. And since I'll need it to explain this topic, and hypertrophy kind of builds on itself in terms of like the learning aspect, I'm just going to explain this and get it out of the way. A motor unit is essentially a nerve cluster that allows the muscle fibers to contract. Think of it as one big button that turns on, let's say, 6 light switches. Now, let's say the harder you hit said button, the more lights it turns on. You don't want to hit it too hard because then you can break it. But let's say, you hit it very hard and you turn on 12 lights. That's essentially what's happening in the process of motor unit recruitment, where you experience tons of tension on the muscle getting very close to failure, and then the motor unit recruits the fibers that are able to grow. Because of the size principle, where high tension leads to motor units recruiting larger fibers, this means you have to train very hard and experience mechanical tension. A good indicator that mechanical tension is happening is that your reps are involuntarily slowing. So that's why you have to train so hard. Keep this principle in mind because we're gonna come back to it later. Topic 2, exercise selection. When you walk into the gym, it's probably gonna be very confusing. There's gonna be a lot of stuff, but exercise selection is actually very simple. You need to follow 2 things. 1, stability. Since we know that hypertrophy is a nervous system response, we want the best stability possible. Number 2, and it's less important, but you want to focus on resistance profiles. For example, if a bicep curl is hardest at the top, that's a no-go. So that about wraps up that section. Very simple, very easy. Then we're going to move into section 3, which is volume. Using our previous knowledge, we know that muscle can only grow with very high tension. So in a high rep set, those first few reps are basically like a staircase to the harder ones at the end. It's not possible that you're getting maximal tension for those first 7 reps, because in a high volume set where it's 8 to 12 reps, it only gets hard towards the end. And it's estimated that in pretty much any given set, taken to 1 to 2 RIR, the last 5 reps are going to be the most stimulating. So to limit muscle damage and central nervous system fatigue, why not just put it at a weight you can do for 5 reps and just call it a day? You get the exact same stimulus with less muscle damage and less fatigue. So you do 4 to 6 reps to give yourself kind of a target range, but how many sets should you do? Well, with the more volume you pack on, the more fatigue you pack on. And fatigue versus stimulus, fatigue grows exponentially, right? So the rate speeds up as you go forward, but stimulus is linear. This means the more volume you pack on, the more that the fatigue will catch up. So for the most optimal gains, do 1 set. I mean, sometimes I do 2 just to feel something. 2 sets won't really set off your stimulus fatigue ratio. It's okay to do it. And the last thing I'm gonna talk about is which split should you do. My next video will most likely be how to program one of these splits. So here's a little graph I made comparing 2 of the most common splits to 2 of the most common optimal splits. And when I say frequency is how many times you get per week, how many times per week you'll hit your full body or complete the split, right? So the bro split, where you split every muscle up across a week, so you'd have a bicep day, a back day, a chest day, etc. You'd only get 1 time a week frequency. So every week you get a chance to progress, and then you have to wait till next week. The next split, which is a little bit better, is push-pull legs, right? You can do this about 2 times per week with rest days. Your rest is going to be limited here, but you'll get 2 times a week frequency, which is okay. Now we move into the 2 best optimal splits. Here we have upper-lower rest. This gets you 2.5 times a week frequency, and you get optimal rest, so it's pretty good. And lastly, we have full body every other day. This one's a little bit harder to program, and you really got to be careful about your recovery here. But if you can do it right, you can train 3.5 times a week, and you'll get adequate recovery. That's about it for today's video. If you thought this was helpful, you can subscribe. You don't have to, but it's completely free, and leave a like on this video. See you guys.